About 12 years ago, put together a series of classes, asked students what we needed at Capital, and they had mentioned that we didn't have game design and that would be really cool to have. So we started it, and I don't really have a lot of experience with game design, but I've worked with technology. I taught web design class for 15 years, and so we used the iterative process to put together what we want to do. So we run the class, learn from it, run it again throughout the year. We call them sessions. Right now we do that 5 times a year. And that process has been going on, and students give input into what's happening for each of those development cycles, because our advisory committee had said, you need to make more stuff and do the full development cycle, pre-production, production, post-production, do post-mortem, what worked, what didn't, improve the process, rinse and repeat. And so we've been doing that now for quite a while. So that's the genesis.
So the whole thing with me being on the advisory started really with just staying in contact with Leduc after I graduated. We didn't talk a whole ton for like the duration of my first year. But after that, I messaged him like, hey, I just finished up my first year at DigiPen. I'd love to come talk to the class and kind of give them a 101 on what that was like, the transition from Capital to there, especially because the process was so similar. And then from there, I just kind of became a full-time member of the advisory committee. I've been working with his advisors on regular meetings and giving them project feedback ever since. And then him coming to DigiPen actually happened because I was explaining to one of my professors me working on the advisory committee, and he thought it was really cool. So he suggested I bring Leduc to DigiPen to shadow me in my game design class, because we do a very similar process but a little higher level. And he's like, I think it'd be really good for them to see that at the college level. So I brought him along, and we got luck to that professor because he wanted to be Leduc really bad. And at this point, I'd actually left the room because I had a class to go to, but they had then met. And then that's how the ball started rolling with establishing a connection and establishing the scholarship.
When Hunter brought me up to DigiPen to shadow him for a day, I learned a lot about what we could be doing in the classroom that we were overlooking. Also, with any class, you can't spend a ton of time on everything, so you have to focus on the things that matter. Kind of like a Pareto's rule, the 20% that really make the 80% of the difference. And we came back and started re-engineering things, and with the help of the advisory committee, which Hunter is a part of, and we have other professionals, we started focusing on the things that really do matter so that we can do those better. And in that process, that connection really helped us evolve the program more toward a collegiate level quicker. And so that process, I think, was instrumental in making the program more relevant to post-high school experience.
Actually, the first time that I ever got introduced to this class was quite a few years ago. We have an alumni, Alan, who came here. And I taught him way before I even had this, the leadership role at DigiPen. I taught him, and he had relayed to me, he's a rock star, and he had relayed to me so much about this class, and I was really psyched to hear about it. And it was all something in my mind. So then meeting Hunter, and then later, meeting Scott was really eye-opening, and it gave me a lot of perspective of how these people out of one classroom in Olympia were just crushing it, when they came to DigiPen. And as soon as I realized that, it's not an accident, sometimes excellence is an accident. And sometimes it's not, right? And when I realized, hey, this is not an accident, there's a dude out here really, really intentional about making super high quality video game and media education. I was like, I need to be part of this.
I mean, I've always loved games, and going into high school learning that game design was even an opportunity that I could take was really eye-opening and set my passion on something that I didn't really even know existed. And when I went to visit DigiPen, I've described it as a dream school to my parents, basically, and it's to see it in a affordable or a more affordable spot is really inspiring.
The first big thing was hey, you know what? Let's make a scholarship, and let's not make like a dinky scholarship. Let's make a real scholarship, right? So, I kind of hustled our CFO, and I was like, hey, what do you think about $79,000? And he was like, are they good? I was like, yeah, they're awesome. Let's do it, right? So we put it on paper, and pretty quickly, I sent Scott a letter with my signature on it saying, anybody who gets an A in this class, we're willing to give you that pretty epic scholarship. And I'm glad that it worked for two people. I'm glad that it's making DigiPen an affordable option for you guys, a practical option. And, I'm super stoked to have you join us over there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I've always been interested in game design for basically my entire life. And so when I figured out that DigiPen was a college that specifically helped people wanting to go into the game design field, I knew it would be amazing. But the thing that always made me a bit cautious about going there was the fact that it was pretty expensive. So that's why this scholarship has especially been really amazing for me, because I've known that it's going to allow me to be able to afford DigiPen and go to the place that I really want to go and know that I'll be successful there.